All right.
Hey,
Peace and love, family. We got a pranayama practitioner here, Yogi, Buddha, Anthony Hazin. This is one of my good brothers. I met him actually at a Phil Valentine event in Atlanta. That was in 2017, and me and him, man, we've been boys ever since. Much love, brother. And we live in Florida. We live pretty close to each other. So, before this whole quarantine and this pandemic took place, we would go out to the park, and he was the one that sparked me about 3 years ago, around that time when I was in Hawaii. And he sparked me to have more of a deeper understanding as to the breath and its connection to the spirit. And the breath is the spirit, you see, and how you could start to even manipulate or control certain subconscious actions, because every subconscious action in the body comes from the breath. So what we're going to talk about is, Anthony's going to talk about the Western perspective of the breath and the Eastern perspective, and we're going to kind of bring it together. And he's also going to show you from the basic practices to the most advanced practices. And this is a class on energy cultivation. Okay, so much love, Anthony, for having you here. But before we get into it, how did you start on your journey? What was the first thing that you started doing? First set of exercises, or what into this?
what brought me into it is, well, thank you for the introduction. That's first and foremost. But what really brought me into this is I started reading books when I was about to graduate high school. I wanted to learn more. That was my goal. When I graduated high school, I wanted to learn what they didn't teach me in school. So I started getting books, not just fiction books. Like the real one that inspired me, honestly, was Tupac. If you look up Tupac's words of wisdom,
right,
at the end of one of his videos in an interview, it says, "What books did Tupac read?" So I typed that into Google. I searched all those books, and I went to the library, and I got them all. Probably the most powerful book that I read, that he read, was the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And it talks about the whole point of life, almost, and the whole point of meditation. Because here's what I got from it. There's a part in it that says, when we die, we're gonna cross over, and people who don't have enough consciousness will come back, reincarnate, or even worse, they'll turn into a ghost, and they'll haunt this realm looking for another body. So the whole point of meditation was to gather enough consciousness so that when you pass over, you're still aware, and therefore you don't have to reincarnate. So when I started reading, I was like, holy shit, I don't know anything. So I just started meditating, started getting books on yoga, Qigong, and the whole nine. So I was doing yoga and meditation for maybe 2 years before I even learned about pranayama and breathing exercises. And when I found that, I was like, oh shit. It was like seeing an iceberg, but only seeing the tip, and then realizing that there's this whole thing that my boat was about to crash into. You know what I mean?
Right. So Anthony, when you said, just not mean to cut you off, when you said you did meditation for 2 years, what basically, before you got into the deeper pranayama exercises and qigong, what were the basics of when you say you meditated? What did you do? Did you just kind of focus the breath into the belly, or was it regulation of the breath, or did you
for me, it was more like just focusing my energy on my brain, basically, just focusing up here, and just sitting, and the other thing that was key too is that my grandfather was in Dominican Republic. He wrote a lot of books on martial arts, and my key was just connecting with him almost, and that's a big facet too, is that you got to connect with your ancestors, but for my grandfather, he was he was an artist. He was he used to work on submarines. He was a boxer, a wrestler. He used to write for the newspaper. and he wrote books literally on martial arts, like just, you know, kind of Bruce Lee type, like drawings of just step formation, like one step here and then the second foot goes here, you know, basic type stuff. So I was like, damn, you know, I have to kind of continue on that. So that was like when I first started meditating, that was like my key, just like putting my attention up here and not even really focusing on the breath, because I didn't notice how important it was, I guess, at that time. I was doing more about like visualizations rather than, or contemplations rather than deep meditations. And the difference in meditation and contemplation is that contemplation, you're still having activity of the mind. Right. While as meditation is more about becoming and being your breath to the highest form. Because you notice with a lot of breath work, what they're showing now with the Wim Hof holotropic, is that they want you to breathe fast. They want you to go.
Yep.
Now these breath works they're good for you. You're gonna totally energize, but then the meditation is like you're missing the key component of it, because the whole point of pranayama was to slow the breath down to the point where you're breathing about 1 breath per minute, to the point where you don't need to breathe as much. You do more with less. Right. You know? And so that was like the beginning of my meditation practice. Now in 2012 is when I discovered pranayama. It was that and Falun Gong. Yeah, Qigong.
Yeah.
You know, and they both were on the same webpage. Like someone had linked me it, and they were both on the same like webpage saying these are the 2 prominent practices coming out of China, like Eastern Oriental states right now. So I was doing both of them, but the pranayama was just magnificent. I mean, I never seen anyone like charging up with breath, so to speak, you know, and just sitting there, you know what I mean? Because like they call it in Western terminology, it's anabolic process, right? Instead of catabolic. Catabolic means you're breaking down bigger things and putting them into little. So it's like working out or even eating, right? Anabolic means like an anabolic steroid. It means you're building up from little pieces and making a bigger part of it. And so pranayama is that, you know what I mean? Instead of running, what's his gram? Buddha Bloom. So yeah, what was I at? Catabolic. So yeah, pranayama, you know, when a person goes for a run and they get the so-called runner's high, the runner's high is that you're breathing very rapidly, which is good, but it's a catabolic process because you're using energy. I can do that same breathing right now.
Right, the breath of fire, correct?
And I'm not wasting any energy. In fact, I'm building up through that. You know what I mean? So right, I realized
you're not hurting your joints either, correct? Like, because you know when you run, you're hurting your joints and stuff like that. So right.
You know, so it's like it's good to run. I'm not knocking it. You know what I mean? Anything, any exercise you do, you can always improve and get better at. You know, I'm just saying at rest, if you want to really like, if you're just chilling, sitting down, you can charge up right here, right now. And that's what I started realizing. I started sitting more. I started just being, you know what I mean? Like for me now, meditation is just like, I'm just sitting and chilling. I don't need to watch TV. I don't need to, even if I'm reading or doing something, I'm still like in a meditative state, you know, because I know, like if you see my diaphragm right now.
Yeah, it's like synchronicity. I wish I could do my belly like that, smooth like that.
So I'm just chilling like at any moment. So the Western perspective is more about oxygen and carbon dioxide and their role in the body. And that's why everybody wants to charge up with the Wim Hof and holotropic. Now, if you look at the Eastern point of view, like in the book that I put it on my Instagram. I put it right there in the story highlights. When you click down, it says Intro to Breath. It's a book by Dr. Zhuang Wing Ming, something like that. And it's called Qigong Small Circulation. But basically, he goes over the 5 kind of levels to breathing. The first one is chest breathing. That's where everyone usually starts at. I mean, as a baby, you come out through embryonic breathing because the umbilical cord,
Right.
even though we didn't use our lungs to breathe in the womb, we were still moving our abdomen because that's how we would get nutrients from the umbilical cord. So abdominal breathing. Sorry about that. So yeah, abdominal breathing was natural. It became natural as soon as we came out the womb.
Yeah, okay. Natural soon as we came out the womb.
Because we're already doing that movement in the womb
Yes.
to get the nutrients from the umbilical cord.
Right.
So abdominal breathing was natural at first, going like this and like that. And now, even if I'm holding my breath, I can still move the diaphragm as if I'm breathing. Ready? So I'm holding my breath out, right? Now the key would be to synchronize those movements with my inhale and exhale.
Okay.
And eventually, as we mature, a lot of us lose that kind of sensory awareness of how to breathe with our diaphragm. So now we start with chest breathing. That's the first level. And that's how I usually start my pranayama practice, is the 8-part sequence.
Okay.
So I'm going to go into the Chinese philosophy of the 5 levels of breathing, and then I'm going to go into the 8-part sequence of pranayama and how that is a little bit more advanced and how that one just awakens the kundalini.
Okay.
So with chest breathing, even if it's shallow and you don't hear it, it's like you still see the movement of breath in the chest. Then the next level would be abdominal breathing. Now, I'm not breathing in fully. I'm breathing in about 10 to 20% of my lung capacity, and all of it is just to move the diaphragm.
Right. And question of the diaphragm, it just pushes it downward, and then that's what makes the belly expand, correct?
Exactly. Because that's the diaphragm is a muscle. And just like I flex my bicep, when the diaphragm flexes, it naturally expands downward.
Got it. And when it goes up, that's when the belly sucks in.
Yes. So the diaphragm only contracts on inhale and relaxes on exhale. The key now is to use the other abdominal muscles called the transverse abdominis in Western terminology, or the mula bandha in yoga terminology, which is the muscles right here below the umbilical cord, the navel. And by bringing it in is how you stop the blood flow. So any contraction of any muscle squeezes the blood out of that area. And therefore, if I'm squeezing blood out of this area, my lower dantian, the lower elixir energy field, I'm also squeezing the blood out of the internal organs so that when I release, all the blood flow comes right back to it. And therefore, your digestion gets better, your sexual organs get better, the kundalini. So here's another thing for men that we need to get in tune with, is that the Kegel exercise for women, or the PC muscles, you want to call them, we have those muscles and you can strengthen those muscles. And again, you're squeezing blood out of these areas so that when the blood comes back, you're bringing in fresh oxygen into these areas. Now, the testicles secrete 2 things. It's either going to be sperm or testosterone. Sperm, you're going to waste it, and it's going to be energy that goes out. Not waste, it could be an investment if you're putting it into someone, or if you're not, you're going to be wasting it.
Most of the time.
The key is you want to be secreting testosterone because that's what's going to make you a man. That's a steroid. It's going to make you a stronger person, more confident, more creative, and it also goes in touch with the cerebral spinal fluid. right? So we have chest breathing and then abdominal breathing. Then once you get really good with abdominal breathing, right, you can combine them two. So now it's abdominal and then chest. So
okay, interesting. Because yesterday, I actually started doing that where it seems like it was two parts. You see, because I've been practicing it consistently for quite some time. Been doing qigong, and I do feel the energy. And naturally now, I just breathe into my diaphragm. My belly expands. I don't have to do it anymore. It's regulation without regulation. But what I realized was when I filled up the diaphragm and the belly expanded, I was able to bring in more, like kind of bring it up more into my chest, you see? And then it was a lot of tingling sensation here in the pineal gland area, and it was throbbing and pulsating. It actually felt like it pulsated more when I brought it into my chest. So interesting.
yeah, and that's the key, is that the cerebral spinal fluid, like I'm a massage therapist, right? So in massage, there's another modality called craniosacral therapy.
Okay.
In craniosacral therapy, you don't even massage the cranium or the sacrum. You just put your hands there and you hold it. That's all you do, right? And the key is to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight. That's when you got to run, you're stressed out, or you're just active, right? And the parasympathetic it activates when you're getting ready to relax, getting ready to go to sleep, or you're digesting food. And they call that rest and digest. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is only activated from the abdomen to the chest, because that's where all the nerves for the arms, legs have to go. The parasympathetic goes all the way from the sacrum to the cranium. So when you're shallow breathing, your nervous system is only going here. When you're doing deep, slow, and full breaths, the cerebral spinal fluid is able to flow from the sacrum to the cranium. And this is why it's important. Your breath controls the frequency of that cerebral spinal fluid. If you're breathing too fast, it's going to be the cerebral spinal fluid in the spine is only going to be traveling from here to here. When you're breathing fully, it's going to descend all the way and then be able to come all the way back up. And the slower you breathe, the more controlled and more flow that energy that fluid will rise over to the brain. And it's like a coronation, to being crowned again and washing, not brainwash as in brainwash with thoughts and indoctrination. I'm saying you're literally washing your brain with
Right.
this fluid.
So quick question, bro. So about I know about when they talk about the lower dantian breathing and what the yogis did, they would put a feather in front of their nose, and it wouldn't they would want to make sure to breathe so lightly that they wouldn't move the feather. Now I know you said that, okay, you got to breathe in deep, but so is there like how the whole thing about breathing without breathing, like can you breathe in very lightly and gently but breathe in deep without actually exalting out a lot of air? Like, so I just trying to connect to see, for example, like if I'm just taking in, because sometimes when I'm like just sitting with my spine straight, hands up like this, like you said, I do feel a lot of the energy coming in, but I'm not really breathing like deep, but I'm not really breathing. I don't feel like I'm really breathing per se. It's very light, but it still feels like it hits my lower dantian, you know?
So for me, there was two, like the way I was introduced and the way I'm practicing now is like as you keep doing it, it gets deeper, right? So the first one I would say is saying Om. Om. But the internal sound, saying it with your mental voice, because that's going to develop the concentration power, and it's going to also activate the mental abilities to conversate almost with yourself, but in mantric forms. Not in the saying like not like affirmations like I am powerful, I am this. That's good too, but I'm saying like actually intoning, hearing, ooh,
In your
actually
internal
hearing
dialogue,
tones in your
in your
brain, huh?
inside,
Right? And that one's good because to speak, you have to use your breath. So by speaking in your mind, you're already guiding your breath. In the beginning was the word, and the word was what was Om, and the Om was with God. You know what I mean? Like the word is Om. How does it go? Man doesn't live off bread alone, but by every word he speaks. Yeah, every word you saying, that's what you're living by, because it's controlled by your breath. Breath controls every single, it controls speech. To speak, I'm using my breath. On the exhale, therefore, I have to inhale this invisible energy to manifest sound.
Right, and you're manipulating it. Right, with intention.
So that one is what's going to guide you. Like that Om meditation is what's going to guide, is going to start to slow the breath down. If you're really focusing, you'll notice your breath will start going automatically into hibernation mode, so to speak. And the other key is Vipassana. Vipassana meditation is the meditation directly handed down from the Buddha.
Okay.
He gave it basically the first, and you could go to Vipassana retreats all around the world. They're completely free. You stay there for 10 days. They give you a place to sleep. They give you food, and the only thing they ask is that you don't look at people, and you take 10 days of noble silence, meaning you do not speak for 10 days. And the key is those first 3 days, you have to focus on the nose, because that's what's going to develop concentration and awareness of the energy flow. Because you were saying that how you're feeling the energy, but you feel like you're not breathing slow, right?
Yeah, it's like, so, I feel it, right, but you know, it's like I'm not like, how are you talking about? I breathe and I'm not really regulating the breathing. It's like I'm just kind of, I do have moments where I kind of sift on and off from regulation, because I know about the testicle breathing. When you breathe in slow, you contract the PC muscle and stuff like that. But I can't say from my personal experience that even like with me just sitting, and I'm not, I don't know if it's just from me practicing consistently for 1 year. It's like I feel it so much more. In the beginning, I couldn't do that though, you know, and I just want to, you know, like, should I, since you more on point, or let me not say on point, but more experienced. Let me say that, right? Will I get more breathing in deeper and slower? Okay, because you said 1 breath per minute. It makes sense that you draw more energy, because it's like you're not you're not like exhausting out or using as much, you know. But let me just continue. I don't continue.
Yeah. So again, with so once you're already past the chest breathing stage, you move on to the second stage, which is abdominal breathing.
Right.
Once you can take in 10 to 20% of the breath, like you're only breathing in 10% to 20% in, right? And you're only just moving the diaphragm. Then you're gonna begin to slow it down. So it's not, it's more.
Okay.
Once you're able to slow down this movement with the breath, then begin to combine it with the chest breathing. So now it's still even slower. It's like,
I see.
and that's just a few breaths. By the time you're into meditation and doing it for like, you're completely still and you're doing it for like about like, because I get to the point where I'm just like, it's so natural for me now. I just wake up I spend at least 15-20 minutes just like centering my breathing, you know.
Yeah.
And you'll notice with each breath, it starts to get longer, starts to get stronger, and the energy starts to flow more. But the key is trying to focus right here on the nose, because the nose controls also the oral pharynx. So your tongue is going to start to come backwards. You're going to start to put the tip of the tongue on the soft palate. You're going to start to secrete more saliva, lubricating this. Then it's going to start to feel your throat muscles coming back, and then the lungs expanding. Because the diaphragm, the lungs, and the nose are all connected.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they were saying, the research, that people who mouth breathe, they end up developing lower facial muscles, like their facial tone isn't as strong. They have a lot of asthma, people who breathe through the mouth. And it's all, what is asthma? Asthma is just inflammation of the bronchial tubes because they're breathing too much, right? Now here, let's go into Western anatomy. It's called oxidization, just like iron. Iron is the metal in the blood that controls the hemoglobin. It's an iron-based protein. So what happens to iron outside in the physical world? When you put too much oxygen and water, it begins to rust.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. This is why they tell you to eat more fruits. They want you to get antioxidants. Antioxidants. This antioxidants, what's the opposite of oxidization? Carbonation. All you need to do is slow down the breath. You don't really need, like, yeah, it's good to eat fruits and vegetables. I'm not saying that. But what they're saying about antioxidants, you could do that with your own breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And this why cultivation so powerful, you know. And I just want to stamp on what you said, that I did have a much deeper meditation experience when I did focus here. And it just felt like, honestly, this is how it felt like, because, you know, I could meditate for a long time. And it was like in the nose, I felt the drawing of the breath, but it was light. And even though I was focusing on the nose, I still felt it like go in really deep. And I really had this deep connection because it was boom right here, boom right there. You know, like it just felt, let me not say feel, but it was a sensation that where so much cosmic energy was coming in. This was especially after like going almost 2 hours. Because, you know, like the magneticism really starts to rise, man, like family. Because I was on the second hour of being still. And it was something I never really experienced it before, you know, because when my pineal started pulsating, Anthony, it was kind of this, I felt all of this energy, like the holy breath all over me. And it was, how do I say it? What's the word? What is the wording for it? It was just a layering of so much energy all over me. But I felt it the most intense when I focused on the nose, like you said, and I had my tongue at the roof of my mouth. You see? It's just interesting that you say that.
Yeah, and that's key, is because your sensitivity to the nose will also get stronger. Like even your sense of smell will be getting stronger. It's like this, the inner parts of the nose are like a sensory nervous system. Like it's able to distill or have sensory input. Like you're able to sense with the nose.
Right. You know,
and so yeah, in Vipassana, the first 3 days are just focusing here on the nose, because that's where the energy comes in. That's where you're going to develop your concentration. And then after that is to develop a body scan. You know, you're going throughout the body, feeling anything, not like focusing, but just if anything comes up, your mind can go there and still come back to center. Because the whole idea is they want you to be still. Like they don't want any movement. You have to be completely still the whole hour, let's say. Because if anybody is wanting to learn about meditation, Just be still as possible, like a yoga posture. You know, when they tell you to hold the yoga pose and it's not about movement, it's about how still you can hold it for. It's the same thing with meditation. How still can you be? The only movement that should be happening is the spine lengthening upwards. That's the only movement. Everything else, moving, scratching, tickling, anything, just be still. Your leg falling asleep, just be still. Everything will pass. And that's what a lot of people learn after the 5th day. They'll be like, yo, my leg was falling asleep. I thought it was going to be paralyzed. And then all of a sudden, the pain went away. There was nothing. And that's because it's all mental.
So you got the stillness, you would actually feel stagnations in parts of your body where, for example, energy flowing. Would someone feel like where energy can be trapped if you're still?
Exactly. When you're still, you can notice all of that because your body is still, but the mind is still moving. You can move the mind while still being still.
Yes.
And so while you're still, like your mind can still travel to your legs, let's say. And just by being aware of it, you can increase blood circulation to that area just by putting your focus and your attention there. You know? The other thing, so yeah, that would be the key. Like that, those are the key to like slowing down the breath and meditation. Now, when we talk about yoga philosophy, pranayama has probably been the most incredible thing that has happened in my life. Like after I discovered it, bro, my life just completely, I became who I was meant to be, right? Awesome. And so there's 8 sequences. You have the chest breathing, which is called Bhastrika, which is then you have the second stage of Bhastrika, which is breath of fire. Then you have Kapalabhati, which is forcing the exhale, but you let the inhale happen naturally. So it's like, so it's not. Then you have, so after you do Bhastrika, there's 2 ways to hold the breath. It's either holding the breath in or holding the breath out.
They go to Uddiyana Bandha.
So after you do the breathing exercises, you're either going to be holding the breath in or you're going to be holding the breath out. With Bhastrika, you're going to, with the breath of fire and Bhastrika, like deep breathing, like after you do that, you're going to take a deep breath and hold it in.
Got it.
So let's we're going to do the whole sequence now. When we'll do a short sequence, like we'll be like 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So we'll do 10 deep breaths and then you're going to take a deep breath and hold it in. So it's like, Take a deep breath and hold it in. And that one's gonna start getting the blood circulating. It's gonna start to get the cerebrospinal fluid moving. Then you have breath of fire. So you're forcing the inhale and exhale just like Bhastrika, like deep breathing. But instead of breathing all the way in, you're only doing about 10% is the breath in and out. What do you say real quick?
Is the breath, Kathy said it's the breath in and out the nose only.
Oh, yes. That's another thing. So
Yeah.
unless it's a specific breathing exercise where you breathe out, breathe in or out of the mouth, then that's the thing. But all breathing, even while exercising, should be through the nose. I know they told a lot of people that you should inhale and exhale out of the mouth. Like, that's like kind of like a Wim Hof, and that's not good for even exercise, just because exactly the nostrils has filter, and by breathing out through the mouth, you're releasing too much carbon dioxide, and therefore the oxygen you're taking in, you're decreasing the oxygen transference to the cells, and therefore you're decreasing the circulation by breathing through the mouth at any time, even while exercising. And when you learn, if you're exercising, let's say, and you're running or whatever, and you start to breathe through the mouth, that means you know you've passed your limit of exercise. Just take a few deep breaths and through the nose, and when you're ready to regain yourself, then boom, you come back. But the breathing through the mouth is for emergency use only. Like if you're running from a tiger or something, you know what I mean? Like it's not for everyday health. So yeah, all breathing is through the nose. Oh, also, doesn't slow breathing through the nose concentrate and regulate consumption? Yes. You're gonna regulate. So the medulla oblongata is the part of the brain that regulates your breathing, and it does that by measuring how much carbon dioxide is in the body. So when you start doing slow breathing, it's gonna feel almost like you're suffocating yourself. But again, this is because you're increasing your tolerance to carbon dioxide, and the medulla oblongata will adjust. So yeah, breath of fire, the slow breathing, lower blood pressure. Oh yes. Oh, so here's another one. There is a good one to breathe through the mouth, but this is a breathing exercise, and this breathing exercise is factual, and there's evidence to lower the blood pressure with this one. And this is how it goes. It's in through the mouth like this. You stick your tongue out and make a circle, and you inhale through this tongue. Exhale through the nose. You can already feel the body cooling down with just that one breath. They say that breathing exercise also conquers hunger and thirst. And then another good one for lowering blood pressure is to breathe in through the teeth. So the tongue is at the roof of the mouth, and you inhale through the teeth. So it also helps lower blood pressure, and it also helps with any dental issues, tonsils, and throat issues, bad breath. etc. But those are breathing exercises. Those aren't normal everyday breathing.
Right.
So yeah, so breath of fire is inhale and exhale, but only about 10% in, 10% out, rapidly.
Yes. And then the next one you said is where you exhale vigorously, correct? That's the third one?
The Kapalabhati, yeah. So you let the inhale come in and you force the exhale out. So there's also a way to do it slowly where it looks like I'm belly dancing almost. It's like, so that's Kapalabhati in a slow manner where you're not forcing the exhale, but you're still pushing it out.
Okay.
And then the faster version would be take a deep breath, exhale all the way out, hold the breath out. And the first stage is to hold the breath and just relax. The second stage, start to contract and squeeze those PC muscles like you're contracting it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then hold and squeeze it as hard as you can. When you feel like you need to breathe again, release. And again, we'll do 10 breaths.
Okay.
Take a deep breath, exhale all the way out. Contract your PC muscles. Do about 5 squeezes. And then on the 5th one, squeeze and hold it as tight as possibly. What do I mean by PC muscles? The PC muscles are the pelvic coccygeal muscles. So
Now
below the pelvis floor, like pretend you were peeing or urinating and you're trying to stop the flow of the urination. That same muscle that stops it is the same muscle as the PC muscle. So you're gonna contract it. Yeah, Kegel exercises.
like this is just wanted to show, if you wanted like a visual, Anthony, you see PC muscle.
Yep, exactly.
And it's the one where you could hold your pee. Like when you have to pee and you can't pee right away and you contract to hold it in, or let's say you peeing and you stop it for a sec, that's the PC muscle.
Yeah, like that's a good explanation. Like when you really have to go pee really bad and you're like a minute away from the bathroom and you're just holding it and you're squeezing tightly, that's the muscle.
Right. Okay.
And what happens there is that you begin to strengthen those muscles. People have cured themselves from hemorrhoids and prostate cancer just by regulating these muscles, getting in tune with these muscles again.
Yes, and family, you can, because I do practice, when I do my Qigong, not every time, I just kind of been sitting still, but where you can contract the PC muscle based on inhale and exhale. And I even done it, Anthony, with reverse abdominal breathing, where when I breathe in, right, but my belly, my diaphragm
comes in. Yeah.
Comes in at the same time, I'm contracting my PC muscle, you see? And, and when we say contract, family, when you kind of get good at practicing with it, you could push it down or you can push it up, the PC muscle. So on a regular, like embryonic breathing and normal abdominal breathing, when you breathe in and the belly expands, you push down on the PC muscle. And then when you exhale, you push up on the PC muscle, and that's embryonic breathing, right? I think going through the manual that you did give to me after, you can feel how the energy can move up and down when you start to practice this, you know. Like I said, I don't do it on every exercise. I kind of switch between different exercises, but that's what they call the testicle breathing, ovarian breathing.
Yeah. So Kaylin had a question about that. And so with abdominal breathing, so there's abdominal breathing and reversed abdominal breathing. So abdominal breathing is when you expand the like you do the natural, how the diaphragm naturally expands on inhale, and on exhale it naturally comes in. That's abdominal breathing. Then reversed abdominal breathing is how you begin. So they say abdominal breathing is how you gather the chi, and then reversed abdominal breathing is how you circulate it upwards. So you would reverse it. So on inhale is when you bring it all these lower muscles in. Exhale, pushing out. And that also helps with you know how like you see a lot of kung fu martial artists, they could take spears and shit to their throat and bodies and stuff. That's gonna help you to develop they call the iron shirt.
Yes, right. And question, Anthony, doesn't, for example, when you do normal abdominal breathing, you have your primary chi channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
The microcosmic orbit, the primary chi channels, and the reverse abdominal breathing is when you push it into the alternative channels. Is that true? Where you kind of, it's not going through the primary channels, but it's going into the secondary other channels.
Yeah. So with that one's very, very advanced, you know, because the first one, small circulation, they call the microcosmic, right?
Yeah,
and then the macro is coming all the way from the feet and arms, and then coming over and in, you know, because that's where the 12 other channels flow from. So in massage school, I went to acupuncture massage college, so I had to learn a lot about the 12 channels, the organs. I had to know where it starts, where it ends, the functions. And so each channel correlates to an organ, you know. So you have the liver and gallbladder channel. Those are both controlled by wood. And what's funny is when you realize this, it's like the yin elements like water, earth, and wood, they all connect to the feet. And then the yang channels like fire, air, and the sanjiao and the pericardium, those two aren't organs, but they're considered organs. And those are the channels in Chinese theory. Those are yang, and they connect from the arms to the chest and face, you know. So it makes sense how they discovered it. And it also goes by three, you know. You have three channels like on the outside of the forearm, and you have three channels on the inside of the arm. And the same thing with the legs. You have three on the outside and three on the inside. And so that's what it basically comes down to is, and those are your 12 right there. So you have basically 12 organs, you have 12 cranial nerves, you have 12 channels, you have 12 tribes of Judah, you have 12 months, you have 12, it's all 12. 12 is a master number right there.
12 cellular salts. Yeah. So it's sparking a question in me, brother. So you said that the microcosmic orbit, like for example, it's just kind of from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the macro is when it goes down to the feet. Did you say that? You did say
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, question, when I'm cultivating energy, and this is, again, not from a book, from my personal experience, I feel more of the energy, Anthony, in my hands and face and kind of in my upper area. I don't feel a lot of it in my legs and feet. There's times when I do. Is there a technique, or is there something that I'm missing? Because I kind of built on that, right? What's the technique to actually bring it like to the feet? I know that you said it's more advanced, but you know, I've been a steady cultivator for quite, you know, every day. And, you know, is there a way to sit down?
Yeah, I would say, so there's like three ways I'm seeing meditation now. There's the sleeping meditation while you're laying down. There's sitting meditation. And then, of course, standing meditation.
Yeah.
Now the standing one, you know that they hold the horse stance for hours at a time. So you heard. So when you bring it down to the feet, it's more about pushing down, you know. On kind of like reverse abdominal breathing, you know, like you inhale, you feel like you're charging, like you're bringing the ground up through your feet. You're inhaling it, bringing it up, and then on the exhale is when you push out and you're pushing down, you know. And the wider your horse stance, the more power you'll feel in the legs, you know.
You know, I did do a standing meditation with reverse abdominal breathing, and I think that, and I'm this might be a claim, but I do remember that's when I really felt it all over my body. You know, so it's interesting you say that. I'm gonna experiment more with that, because I can do reverse abdominal breathing. Actually, it feels actually pretty natural, you know, when I do it. And I like to do it before exercise as well. So I'll do reverse abdominal breathing before I do some burpees or exercise, you know, because I know that also helps to bring the yang part of the body, correct? When you do reverse abdominal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you brought up the
So,
4 parts, Anthony. You brought up the chest,
mm-hmm.
the breath of fire, and the when you exhale vigorously, right?
Yeah.
I know you said there's 8 parts.
Yeah, so those are the first 2 or 3, because the third one is just holding the breath out. When you learn to hold the breath out, because that's when you're able to bring in the Uddiyana Bandha, and this one is how you raise the Kundalini, because it brings you into the 4th breathing exercise, which is Ujjayi. Ujjayi is more like the crying breath. Like, if I have a page, let me see if I can bring it up on here.
Okay.
But in the book it talks about there's more in the Chinese Qigong circulation. It talks about on the way to yang up, the sound is ha, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the way to yin, they call it the hen sound. But it's more of a crying. It's more like a crying, sobbing sound. And it goes, that's the Ujjayi. I think it's right here. Can you see this? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, you gotta share your screen.
Let me know if you guys can see it.
Oh, you don't see it yet. You don't see it yet.
How long do we practice breathing on a daily? There's a part in the book that talks about regulate until you don't have to regulate, or regulate without regulating. Meaning you get to a point where, like, now all I need, like, I still do it, but it's like every day every breath is like, you know, every moment I'm practicing, so to speak.
Yeah, it becomes almost like a big part of your life, you know, and that's why I said I just regulated my breath for like 8 months doing it, and then for some reason I just decided to just sit and just not regulate my breath, and I actually felt a bit more chi energy. Not trying to do anything. It was weird because I always was, and it was moved into meditation like I was trying to accomplish something, and realizing the art of Wu Wei, that's, you don't really go into meditation trying to become something. How can you become something when you're already it, when you're already like what you're trying to become? So, it's almost an essence of seeing more of your true nature and breaking the illusions that we've built from a childhood, from even past lives. So it's like, what I'd like to say is that you do have to practice regulation, though, in order to get to that point where you could actually sit there and feel the energy. And I don't know if, again, because Anthony, you know, I didn't do a lot of pranayama. I didn't do a lot of pranayama, but I did a lot of the qigong, some of the fallen gong and stuff. But now I like to just sit down and
exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like some days. So I practice, I would say maybe an hour or two every day, right? Some days I do pranayama twice a day. Some days I just meditate more, you know? But it gets to the point where you adapt, right? And once you make adaptations, your body can't really go back to the same way it was. You know what I mean? Like if you were a land animal, let's say, or a water animal, and you came and you adapted to land, those land animals really don't go back to water anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're just on land again. So it's the same way with breathing. Once you make just certain adaptations, it's like, I'm not really practicing. I don't know if I'm really practicing. I'm just being, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes. Right. And you know, you realize too, the minute you get out of mind or you just focus on breath, the energy instantly comes, like instantly. And then when you're focused on something or the thinking is like, I realizing too why when, even if you eat a fruit diet or eat a certain way, if your thoughts ain't in check, you're thinking of, it absorbs a lot of the pranic energy as well. Like because it takes energy to close your mind and visualize images. It takes energy.
Exactly.
So it's like we're just, all our life, we learned how to expend energy. All our life, we never was taught the essence of cultivation where we just kind of sit and learn how to be a producer of that, you know? So it's like, I feel where Anthony coming from. I used to do I did more in the beginning than I do now. Like now I don't, I mean, I do Qigong, you know, every other day, but most of the time I actually just like to sit and just meditate. But Anthony, can you get into mudras? Because when I like sit, I only have my hands up collecting. Now, is there certain mudras that you do and you sit still, you know?
I like to connect, of course, to the air element, this one, right? This one is important. You have, in Chinese theory, we have two channels right here. The thumb connects the lung, and this one is the large intestine. Both of them are metal elements. So when you connect them, you complete a circuit of metal. Now, metal in Chinese theory, you could say it's air. It's the air element. They don't have the air element in Chinese theory. They have fire, wood, water, earth, and metal. Metal can be loosely translated as air. So these are your two air element channels right here. In prana and yoga terminology, this is your air, this is your ether, the middle finger, this is your earth, and this is water. So I usually just regulate my air. I just hold it here, just regulate like this. Then if I'm really feeling it, do this one. You know about this one, prana mudra. I seen you doing it in this one when you're like that.
Yeah. Now
it doesn't just mean peace. It literally, this one will activate the kundalini energy. It's prana. You'll start to feel the flow coming upwards. This one gets a bad rep right here, but the people who use it know the power of this. This one expels all foreign objects out of the body. You could detox with this mudra. And what ends up happening is they've used it for bad because they know that they don't want to absorb your energy. So they're doing it in front of you and putting out all their negative energy onto you.
Right. Makes sense. You could do that when you like take a shit too.
Yeah. We have this mudra is, this mudra is right here. You bring the index finger to the thumb, right? Like this. And then you put the thumb to the middle finger and the ring finger, and you leave the pinky out. This one is very beneficial for the heart. Supposedly, if you have someone having a heart attack, you tell them to do this mudra, and it'll help. Like they won't have a heart attack anymore.
Yeah, so you see, it's deep, family. The stuff he's
And also,
saying,
yeah.
sorry, Anthony, I don't mean to cut you off. You see what he says with the mudras, we're so accustomed to ingesting something to manipulate the energies in our body without realizing that, right? With certain gestures and hands, we control nature forces. Notice he said each finger represents an element of nature. So when you do a mudra gesture in your meditation, then you actually can then bring the intention on it. But it's not like just a thought or mind, right? You bring in an intention to kind of direct that energy in a certain pathway, in a certain area, you know? So like he said, one for elimination, you have one that can be used for concentration, one, I even seen some that was for wealth and stuff like that.
Yeah, like this one, in middle and the middle and index finger.
You see? Right. And there are hundreds of mudras, but you know that the top 10, or there's kind of what yogis use, but finally there's so much, there's so much mudras, and it's so deep when you start to get into but first you got to build a foundation, though. That's what I believe, at least, that, you know, it's good to build that foundation, like what he said with the normal abdominal breathing. I don't think energy cultivation is really efficient if you're not first practicing on the regulation of the breath, of the normal abdominal breathing first, you know? So it's interesting. And you know, you notice, Anthony, in anime, when they doing their thing and shooting out, they doing like hand gestures.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's like crazy. So you also have this one, when you bring the hands together. You've seen Haile Selassie do it, right? Oh, it looks like a Mason symbol.
Rastas.
And really just, really not that. You're just absorb. It's called the Yoni Mudra, and it's able to absorb all energy. So when they throw it up like this, it's because they're absorbing your energy and utilizing that for riches.
Your attention. That make a lot of sense, right?
You know. Then you have the one where the index fingers come in. So it's like this. You see? So it's like I'm doing, you know, meditation mudra, but my hands are together and closed.
And that's absorption? Is that one?
This one is like it repairs your karmic. My one of my yoga, my thigh massage teacher showed me this one.
Yeah, so
I have the book around here, but he tells me it's very, like, it's super powerful. It's like one of a Buddha mudras, because you're still meditating with your hands out like this, but your hands are together. I gotta look that one up again. Right. But yeah, so back to the pranayamas. We went through the Bhastrika, the Kapalabhati, the breath hold out. Now let's get into the slower forms where we start to get into meditation. Is the Ujjayi. The Ujjayi breathing. So you could do it soft or hard. The hard one is like.
Sound like a dying horse. All right, just go ahead, man.
But see, that one is the one that draws up all the energy upwards. So it's really powerful for meditation. So when you slow it down, you're still contracting those throat muscles to raise the energy, but you're doing it in a slow form, because now instead of breathing through a windpipe like this, the hole gets smaller. So now you can breathe for longer and slower. That's how you're able to reach the 2 to 1 breaths per minute.
Okay.
Like, think of Darth Vader. You know that sound was like.
So I have a question here. Then he say, isn't it harmful to do breathing techniques partially? Like, for example, when I'm at work, if I just do a couple of these for like 30 seconds, but I don't do the whole exercise, or when it just pops in my head as I'm living day-to-day life.
I would probably say the ujjayi, like the slower ones, nah, not really. But the faster ones, yeah. Like let's say alternate nostril breathing, because that's the one right after ujjayi.
All right, I think we got. Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, so the slower forms of pranayama are beneficial, and you can pretty much do anywhere, especially like ujjayi, not the hard one, but the slow one. That one's very beneficial because it's gonna slow you down. Now, let's say you're at work and you wanted to yang up, right? So instead of breathing faster, just breathe through the right nostril, because the right nostril is gonna heat you up and make you more active. And the left one is gonna slow you down. So if you wanted to cool down, what about during exercise? Trainers usually say hold your stomach in tight the entire time while you breathe. Yeah, like I would say breathe with your abdomen. You know what I mean? Instead of holding it, just breathe with it. Because once you take time to really sit, like think of this, right? Think of it as an exercise. They tell you to exercise every muscle in your body, from your biceps to your hamstrings and your quadriceps. But they never tell you to work out your diaphragm. It's so easy, just breathe. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. So think of it as the air, as your weight and your resistance, and you're pushing and pulling against it. That's how you're gonna get stronger. How hard can you push against the air? I could push really fast. How fast can you pull on the air? So when you're doing exercise, when you're able to establish synchronicity and a rhythm with the diaphragm, then all exercise will become easier. So instead of just holding it in, I'm breathing with it. So it's like swimming upriver. You know what I mean? Don't go against the flow, go with the flow, you know?
And you know, it's getting to know your own energy as well, you know? Like after some time, when you practice these things, you know, over time, fam, you start to intuitively start to, I don't know, it's like the energy or kind of moves you to doing certain things and gestures that I never even really seen like on YouTube. So, you know, it's just once you stay consistent, you know, and how, again, Anthony, you know, the pranayama has this system, but you don't just want to rush to the advanced things. You always want to start off at the basic level. And the funny thing is the basic level is like, that's the building blocks. That's like, you know,
Exactly.
foundation. And sometimes
Like,
I do the basic, and most of the times I do the basic things, you know.
like this 8-part sequence I've learned since 2012, and it's the only, like I still try other type of pranayamas, but I stick to this one. Like this is the basic, the foundation, and the basics is the foundation of a building. Like when you build a building, right? You start from the bottom and you make sure that foundation is so strong, so that way you can make a skyscraper. And I practice the foundations daily because the advanced stuff is just combinations of those basics. That's all it is. Like, let's say I'm doing something with my hands, so to speak, like the dance of Shiva. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. So you're not really seeing this other hand, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now one hand goes forward, one hand goes backwards. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. You see? So it looks like it's complicated, but I've just done something so basic and then combined the other basics going in another movement. So again, it's basics that create the foundation. The advanced stuff is just a combination of those of the basics.
Right. So, all right, brother. So what would you say to, for example, someone that's, you know, just starting, or what would be the biggest benefit as to doing these breathing exercises? You know, like what is the biggest benefit you would say?
The biggest benefit is for my own personal growth, I would say it's helped me a lot with creativity. It helped me a lot with more compassion towards other people. You know what I mean? Because like, even if you don't practice it and let's say you're very religious, the whole point of religion is to be more compassionate towards others. Like today is Easter, right? You know, we're supposed to be gathering together in the temple. You know what I mean? Right? So the whole point is to find your way and to be more compassionate with that. I'd also say it's helped me more become stronger. When I went to India, I almost died because I went into the Ganges River and I drank from that river, like a lot of water, not just like a sip. You know what I mean? I was like, oh shit, this is the river. This is the holiest of all rivers, the strongest river. It comes from the highest mountains in the world, Mount Everest. So it has to be the strongest river. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when I started drinking from it, that's why I came back so quickly, because I
Yeah.
almost died.
But it was
You know what I
that
mean?
toxic? That toxins?
You could like where I was at, yeah, like you have sewers that go into it. You know what I mean? You have flies right on top of the little parts of the water, but the river is so strong itself that they put a barricade only a few steps in, because even if you take 1 to 2 steps in, you can already feel the force about to push you. Like it's going at least 50 miles per hour, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so the first part of the river, you could see like where the entrance to the sewers and come into it, you could see a lot of flies, a lot of shit, a lot of ornaments, a lot of flowers. You know, the further down, I didn't go to Varanasi, but I was still higher up in Haridwar and Rishikesh.
Right.
And you can, like, the further down, you'll start to see bodies, you know, you'll start to see cremations going in. But I still didn't care. For me, it was a blessing and a curse. The curse being, you know, I could have died. But the blessing was that, you know, pranayama really cures you from everything. Like, if I didn't do it, I would still have stomach, parasites, digestive issues. I literally almost died, bro.
That's insane. Luckily, though, the breath is the primary detoxification channel, family. So these exercises, again, when you focus on the breath and you meditate and you do these exercises, it's the quickest way to expel toxins out of the body. And actually, I do see, first, Craig, Kalen did ask. He said, could you guys shed light on the subtle tingling feeling people would eventually feel doing these breathing exercises? You see? So, you know, I can answer that, and then you, and you know, because it's, the thing is, I think people, you get to that point where you really feel it, not think, sorry, it's wrong choice of words, I know. You get to that point where you really feel it in the consistency. Like, when I first started, it's like I probably could have went a strong 5-10 minutes. That's how I feel, you know. Did I feel the tingling? Yeah, a little bit in my fingertips. I did feel it. But after a month, it started to, and I can show a picture of what we mean by the tingling feeling, family. It started to then kind of overshadow my hands. I felt a little on my face, felt a little something, but I didn't really like to, when I got energized from it, because it's a thing when you feel something and then when you get energized from it. For me, this is just me. I'll say about 4 months of consistency. Was, I don't know if something clicked with me. I don't know what went on or why. It took a couple months, but I started to feel and the tingling sensation that you feel is the forces. You're making contact with the forces of the universe, what they call the Tao, or the energy that it's a tangible thing. It's not, and I say this, and people, it's like a broken record, because I say this a lot, if you've been following me, it's literally, it becomes real. And this is how you bring biophotonic energy and more nerve energy into the body. And the funny thing is, this is what meditation is for. It's for bringing in that energy, because it's really you. The prana energy that we're talking about, the cosmic energy in its true nature is you. It's an abundance of energy. So it seems like we have a limitation of this energy. It does seem like it, based on our thinking only. Only because our thinking is, no, it ain't just, yeah, because it's our upbringing, but we were never taught that we don't see thinking as a sense. Like we always begin to identify ourselves as our thoughts. See, just like if you would sight, smelling, taste, you don't identify yourself with what you smell, what you see, or what you taste. You know that it's a sense. You see, thinking is an instrument. It's a sense. And we started to identify ourselves due to the spell that these sorcerers put out on the planet, especially. But we started to identify ourselves with this self-deception. And because we identify ourselves with that, you start to realize that that sense, when it's overused, just like if you overeat, the taste buds weaken. You know what I mean? So the overthinking weakens what you call the mind, so to say. But mind, okay, is almost like when you look at because what is a mind without the words? It's just an abundance of energy. That's all it is. You see? So you start to gauge into, wait, the thinking, I'm just overusing this instrument, and it's just over rapidly just steering my life into different directions, and you're not grounded, like Anthony said, in your center. And for you to create life on earth, you need money, hence energy, not the fiat money. I mean, you need fiat money, but before that, it was the energy, you see, the nerve energy, so the tingling sensation is you feeling this energy come into the body. It's not pseudoscience. It's something that's real. You see? So when Anthony explains from his end, I'm gonna just pull up just a good picture so you get a visual. All right.
And that's a fact. Like, even just thinking about it, conjuring that feeling up, you can bring that tingling sensation back, and you can begin to meditate on that feeling. That's another thing, is meditating on feelings. You know what I mean? Because so here's another thing that you know how they say words cast spells, spells is spelling, right? Feeling is a verb, meaning it's an action. It's not a noun. An emotion is a noun. It's a concrete thing. It's not tangible. You can't touch an emotion, but it's a noun, as in a concrete, abstract concept, right? A feeling is a flow of energy. A feeling is your ability to sense. A feeling, so you're feeling everything outside. You could feel the floor, the shirt on your skin, the clothes on you. You could feel when you're getting water, but I'm talking about internal feeling. The ability to feel energy, the ability to feel your heart beating, the ability to feel the blood flowing to your brain. You know what I mean?
Right. And this is what they mean by interface with the moment, right? The moment even talks about you actually, like you say, you feeling the energy flow. And this is just how it actually feels. This is a good visual representation, family, of what you feel as it comes in, and the nervous system is being fed, okay? Because we only feed on the nerve energy or replenish nerve energy in sleep. Most people, you know, if you're not a meditator, okay, if you're not a daily meditator, you're already doing this, you know, and you're already doing this every night when you go to sleep. You see, because you expended energy from the food we eat, primarily the food we eat. You know, there's toxins and stuff around the place, and you expend energy, and now the body has to shut down what? What is expending the nerve energy? The body has to shut down the mind, the thinking. You see? So it completely knocks you out in order to get its fix here of what it actually is keeping it sustained. It's a self-sustaining force. So when you learn how to embrace the now, okay, and a lot of people think embrace the now, yes, it means enjoy life, you know, and all that, but it really is meaning making contact, you see, with those subtle ethers, making contact with those subtle ethers every day. And like he said, it's a different feeling. You feel, now the senses start to feel it, the touch, you feel it touch you, being touched by the hand of God, you know, and then it's like, you know, it gets more and more built up. So you're building on your electromagnetic field, okay, as you start to do this. All right.
So there's two questions I want to address from the chat. The one with the white light, yeah, I do experience that from times to times. That's a healing white light that you could feel throughout the body. You know what I mean? The other question someone had was about the physical exercise activity, what breathing. There's a good book called The Oxygen Advantage. I recommend it to everyone just to get a basic over understanding of Western kind of way of breathing, the science, and how to breathe too, because he goes very good on how to breathe diaphragmatically. Because, you know, even yogis have said, you know, that we're not supposed to be breathing as much. Like the first 10 years, when someone first gets into the yoga, the first 10 years, they're breathing a lot heavier. And then by the 10th year, they start to breathe slower than what they used to. And that's because it comes with experience, with wisdom, and you know, just learning about your breathing, that you don't need much. Like I barely do any chest breathing. Like like now most of my breathing is right here in my abdomen. Throughout the day, I'm just breathing in 10 to 20% in through my lungs. If I'm exercising, maybe a little more. And then I go for walks, you know what I mean? And I do this walking type of breathing meditation almost. That's like, you count how many steps you can hold your breath out for. Do that one right there. You just take little breaths in and out, and again, it's gonna feel like you're suffocating because you're adjusting your tolerance to carbon dioxide. And when the carbon dioxide level is raised, even though it's raising, you're able to bring in more oxygen to the tissues and cells. And then you hold the breath out, count how many steps. It could be 10 steps, 20 steps, and again, breathe for another minute. Take another few more walks, breathe for a minute, hold your breath out, count how many steps, and you're going to notice you can start to hold your breath out a little bit longer with each one. And for the tingling sensations, you know, so this is where the East and the West separate. Instead of thinking of oxygen and carbon dioxide, think in terms of energy, of prana, of chi. Yes. When you're able to think of that terms, then you're really getting in tune, because now you realize that there's nothing in front of me that separates this and this camera. But every time I take a deep breath, look, my chest rises. I just took in a bunch of nothingness. There's nothing here. That means that this and nothingness is pure energy. And I can manifest sound with this nothingness. On the exhale, I'm able to speak with this nothingness.
You could manipulate people.
You're taking in energy. You know, you're taking in raw forms of energy. And then the whole work of learning how to breathe is you're learning about the forces of energy. There's a push and a pull. In yoga, it's called prana and apana. the upward rising force and the downward pushing force. And when you're able to learn about those two acts of energy, you get very deep in tune with everything else. Your creativity will expand. Your mind and intelligence, I mean, your intelligence comes from that energy. Everything, whether it's construction and design, whether it's art, whether it's rhyming and making music, there's a pause and there's sound. That's what music is. If there was just sound, it'd be just like rock and roll. I don't know how, anyway. I'm talking about there's a pause and then there's dun 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 dun. That's the rhythm. You know, you can create your own, you can discover your own rhythm. And this is what it all teaches you. The energy is there for you to take a deep breath, to even hold it. So that's another thing, is that if you're always breathing, your mind is always running. The breath holds is how you stop the breath, is how you stop the mind. By stopping the breath is how you stop the mind. And that's why we're learning how to hold the breath in. We're learning how to hold the breath out. When you hold the breath out, it's like you're holding your mind out. When you hold the breath in, it's like you're holding your mind in. That's how you're able to recharge and gain your intuition. Holding the breath out, you detox, you detach from everything. You see? And the breath is there. It's literally there, right here, everywhere you go. It's there, and it's invisible. Like you said in the Tao, how you shared on that post. You look and it can't be seen. You hear, but it can't be heard, you know? But it's there.
You gotta pull that up.
Always there.
Yeah, I gotta pull that up. And you start to have a deeper meaning as to what they're saying, you see. That's why I posted it here on Facebook. You know, being a daily meditator, you get to understand what they're saying here. So like example, it's here, look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach and it can't be grasped. Above it isn't bright. Below it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable. It returns to the realm of nothing. From that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle beyond all conception. Approach it and there's no beginning. Know it and there's no end. You can't know it, but you can be it. At ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. It's powerful. You see?
It sounds so simple, but it's the most deepest thing.
Yeah, and you know, you realize that we are a part of the always was. And that's why, you see, the church says, hold on, look, my thing freezing up here. That's why they say what? Do not have no other gods before me. You see? And you realize that if you believe that, okay, I'm going to eat this apple, I'm going to eat this animal, that's secondary to what actually sustains you. You see? You eat those things under certain conditions. But you realize now with the breatharians coming out, with the knowledge being resurfaced, because it's ancient forever knowledge, it's just we remembering it again. You realizing now what actually sustained us. And all a breatharian is someone that has allowed for the body to detox itself. And celibacy is actually a part of that too, the brahmachari. And they cultivate energy on a consistent basis to where their body is so fine-tuned, the microorganisms inside start to adapt to then be thrived on the subtle ethers. So then the microorganisms and certain organs start to secrete certain proteins and amino acids that right from the air. You see, but the problem is when you have cancer cells and a yeast or bacteria and stuff that's grown from a bad acidic biological terrain, these cells cannot thrive on the subtle forces. You see, they can't. They only can be induced, or they only can live if you introduce a stimulant. You see, that's what they live on. And if you have a vast majority of these cells This is why we die from starvation, you see? Because the whole goal of what you realize is not really not to eat or drink. It's a beautiful thing when you get to eat a good meal, right? It's to get to the point where you're not in survival. You see? That's the big difference, family. Like, it ain't about not eating or drinking, but it's to having the free will to not have to, okay? And not be forced to do shit on this planet, to go work for these corporations, but just because you have to go feed this appetite. And you will realize a lot of our compromises is to just feed appetites. You know, that's really what it's about. And the thing is, if you don't feed the appetite, you die. Why is that? It's because that particular appetite, you became that. And the body, which just reflects the mind and intention, will then start to create that experience, because that's what you need. You turn the desire into a need. And our whole collective anatomy, our whole biochemistry alters based on the collective agreement. This is why I said before, there isn't really no real science. Science is something that constantly changes based on the collective agreement, on what you agree to. And the more you cultivate, why do we even have yogis? And Anthony, you know about Madahai Babaji and a lot of these Taoist immortals. Why don't they die? Why do they live forever? Why do we, when you read autobiography of a yoga, how can a yogi have more than one body? How does that even make sense? Why is that even possible? You start to realize that, again, they've interfaced with a different type of nourishment. There's no limitation. It keeps growing. But the lower appetites, it gets to the point where it's energy exhaustion because it's so outside the laws. You create that, but you expend energy to create that specific thing. You see? So, you know, just again,
Oh yeah, just to say that it is so hyped up as a trend. And the thing is that they only show you the physical exercise, so to speak, part.
yeah.
They don't show you the breathing pranayama part. If they were to show that, like, it's like on TV, right? How come you never seen kale or, I don't know, a pineapple advertised on as a commercial? You know what I mean? It's like they show you everything else, but they won't show you something so simple, right? And in the autobiography of a yogi, this guy, I mean, this is called Maha Samadhi. These yogis are able to drop their body at will. Like, they're able to die when they want. They're able to leave their body. Like, if you read the autobiography of Yogi, this is documented. He was given a speech and he said, okay, I'm going to enter Maha Samadhi now. He said bye, and he left his body right there on the stage. You know what I mean? After he finished his speech, this is not some hoax. This is real. Like, you're able to do so much with this yoga. And I'm only getting started. You know what I mean? I'm only doing these breathing exercises, and I'm realizing the potential. You know what I mean? And I can't wait, because a lot of the yogis, they've had a circle of men or yogis, yoginis, you know, that come together and breathe together and meditate together. Because when you meditate together, the force is even stronger, you know? So it's like, this quarantine is like, it's all right, you know what I mean? It's helping me get better. Now, all I have to do is just, I've been meditating more, doing more yoga. You know, I don't make excuses. I adapt and I attract and I keep moving forward, you know? And so one of the most beneficials is the alternate nostril breathing, right? Because after the alternate nostril breathing becomes the breath hold in between the exhales. So let's say you're inhaling, exhaling through the right. Inhale through the right, exhale through the left. Inhale left. After I'm doing that for like 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, then I start to hold it. So I inhale through the left, Exhale through the right. Inhale right. Hold. Exhale left. Then I'm holding it for like, I'm doing that rhythm now for about another 2 to 3 minutes. And you'll notice the benefits that come with it. Like that one itself is a high level meditation, because just by breathing through one nostril, you're already slowing down the breath by half, right? If it takes you 10 seconds, let's say, to breathe in fully through both nostrils, then it's going to take you a little bit longer to breathe in through one nostril. And I'm doing it quickly to show you, like, you know, when I'm doing it slow, it's like.
Right. And you are balancing both hemispheres of the brain.
Exactly.
When you
Balancing both hemispheres, both sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system.
Sorry, when you breathe in through this nostril, does it stimulate the other side of the brain? Does it go like this, like that? Well, how does that hold? Because I know you stimulate a certain hemisphere of the brain when you breathe through an alternate.
Yeah, like I know that they say the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body and the left hemisphere controls the right side. But as far as the breathing, I would say it just balances the left side more of in the cooling sense. You know, because the left nostril will control, like if I was just to control, block my right nostril, block the right nostril and breathe in and out of the left, it would help me cool down, right? And then if I was just to breathe in and out of the right one, it would help me like yang up, so to speak. And you can kind of feel the heat and the coolness in both nostrils as you're breathing. But in itself is so balancing, you know, so powerful. And it's one of the best breathing exercises you could do at any time, you know what I mean? If you got, not of course if you're exercising, but I'm saying like if you got time and you're at work, you got time to sit anywhere, do anywhere, even in traffic, you could balance for a few breaths, you know?
Right. Yeah, you can inspire that in me. I haven't done that one in a while, you know. I know it helps with clear thinking, getting a sound mind, and prepare, you know, and just to, you know, we're about to end this soon, Anthony, because, you know, again, when people see 3 to 4 hours, they be like, you know, oh, Lord, these niggas talking way too much. So, you know, just to say timely, yoga asanas were not meant to only be a standalone thing. Yoga asanas were meant to prepare you for meditation, you know, and that's what it was, get to the energy circulating, all the postures, the downward facing dog. It was meant to prepare you for deep levels of meditation. You know, it's not a standalone thing. You see, everything goes to what? Energy, bringing more energy into your life. That's all. Health, it just means you have more energy. And disease, sick, you don't have it. Okay? That's all. You know, you don't have it. So you fatigue, you tired. So you just want to learn how to bring more energy into your life. You see? So, you know, anyway, Anthony, you know, this ain't like the last one. Like I said, next one, hopefully we could kind of link somewhere. We can, if you come here, I go right to this tree. You could go right outside, and then we could record an actual exercise. You see? Yeah, I can post this on my YouTube, you know, and we just got to keep growing because, you know, and again, it's like the energy is so powerful. I think you always feel like a baby, a child. Always. I mean, I even feel like those yogis that don't die or know the concept of death and know how to transcend, I still feel like they probably think they babies, you know? It's just never ending and it never stops growing and it just keeps expanding. Don't they tell you the universe just expands? So this energy is constantly moving. And understand, family, stillness and movement are the same thing. You see? Stillness is where movement arises from. So if you want to bring more direction into your life, You got to cut off a lot of them stimulations and a lot, just even if it's just for a couple minutes a day. You know, I'll say shoot for an hour a day, to be honest, because, you know, an hour a day is pretty good. You know, get to the point where you could do that. And then the clarity, and you would have these inspirations that come to you that you could say, man, that's mine. Like that came to me, you know, because we're not, me and him aren't really, I can be real. We are friends showing you what we do, but we're not really teachers like that. Meaning that we're going to bring you and to do these things, and then you awaken your own intuition to go and, you know, move in life in a certain way. But we're not really teachers. We're more, you could say, oracles, people that inspire you, you see? Because the way he does it exactly, you can mimic it just to get that inspiration. But after time, you will start to, you know, get more into the gut feeling, and then listen to, I don't know, it's just such a beautiful beautiful thing when you start to get into this and feel the energy on you. So, you know, anyway, I see Kayla, I built so much nerve energy when I was locked. It was needed, and oh yeah, that's all if I was locked up, that's all I would do. Good stuff, brother. So anyway, peace and love, bro. I would go on for 10 hours.
Like some Valentine stuff right there. Real talk.
Yeah, I could, because this class that I'm about to do is over 2, could be 3 hours. And I'm trying to bring the closest to the truth as possible. I ain't trying to spread this info. So I trying to look into viruses and stuff like that and all that, and really put it out. But anyway, bro, thanks for your time.
Thank you, bro.
You know, I about to go outside, the sunlight out, you know, so I outside, bro. And
you already know.
Thanks for coming through, family. You know, y'all have a good day. I will post the recording on my YouTube. If, you know, if anyone that, you know, add me on Instagram,